So for today's project we are going to be using the Paper Boutique range Perfect Partners Tweed Hearts. So the theme is great outdoors, so I thought, well, let's do something for the men in our lives for this one. And for this first video I'm going to be doing a card design. So I thought, right, okay, let's get out something that's going to be suitable in scale and size for cards. So these 8x8 pads are perfect. Now the range has the solid colours, the pattern papers with a few sentiments to choose from, and also some cut part sheets as well. So I thought, let's put those together and see what we get. So I want to do kind of a landscape. So let's pull out some colours, and we can see the 6 colours that we're going to get on the cover. And to be honest, that's probably a pretty good selection for what I want to do. I'm going to turn the sort of ruddy terracotta colours into my ground, so that we have these 2 shades as our ground. And as colours recede into the distance, they're going to get paler. I'm going to have the yellow as my sun, and then some blue. But I'm actually going to pop the sort of beige colour down towards our horizon. So we're going to have something that looks a little like this for order. Okay. When I can get the piece of paper. There we go. So we're going to have this kind of colour going through. And we have a final sheet of dark charcoal, and I can use that for my silhouette. So set that to one side for now. So those are our main colours. Now if you want to swap one of the colours for a pattern to introduce a pattern element, then we can. So go into your design papers. Let's see what we've got. So we could bring in some of this blue with the birds for our sky, kind of give us that top level. So let's go for that one. There we go. Now each of these papers are going to be torn, so we want to give ourselves enough room to work. And think about how you want your colours to build. So in this case, I kind of want our outer layers to be on top. So the top and the bottom will be on top, and then as we go to the horizon, it's going to recede. So let's first of all tear our blue strip. Now I am going to make more of this pattern than I actually need. Now there's 2 ways that you can tear paper, so I'm going to do both options so that you can see the difference. So we have one that is not showing the white line, and then as we change and pull that paper towards us, we're going to get this white edge here. Now I'm planning on doing 2 or 3 different cards here. So again, we're going to tear. I'm just measuring up with my torn strip to see how low I need this tear to go. And we can do the same again, so we'll do it half that way, change and do it half this way. And our white edge will kind of look like clouds. There we go. So if I pop that over there, we can start to see the build up of our design. Now we're going to do that for each of our papers, so let's do the beige one next. Halfway, change. Whatever you do, be consistent and you'll have a good effect at the end. So let's go to this yellow, nearly. Okay, and this one we can trim almost, to be honest. Let's get my trimmer. Okay, so this kind of forms our horizon line, so the trimmer can be a good option for giving us a nice straight horizon. Okay. So now that we've done that one, we can go to our two corally coloured cards. So with this one we want to create our kind of mountains in the distance rather than clouds. So we're going to tear this one entirely towards us. So you should have something that looks a bit like that. Okay. And again, for this one, we're going to work towards us. Okay. So you should now have all your strips torn. Now what we're going to do is we're going to pop this onto some either thick paper or thin card, because we don't want it too thick that it's actually making lots of depth to it, unless that's the look you really want to go for. But we just want something that's going to help support these pieces. Now you could apply double-sided adhesive to this and then put your strips onto that. If you want to work with wet adhesive, that's fine too. For speed, I'm going to be working with just some double-sided tape. Okay, it doesn't have to be super duper thick either. Now you're going to start really bizarrely at the middle, because we need to stick that first. Okay, so let's just pop some tape on. Okay, and we're going to peel, pop that backing off. Now, just because I got my nails painted at the moment, didn't think of that when I was prepping for this. I'm going to need something to take the backings off my paper with. There we go. So I'm just going to tuck back those two little strips, just so that I can get this level to start with. Now, I am going to work in kind of the middle-ish of my card. But if you want to measure it all out and have it sized perfectly, you can do that too. Now, the smaller and thinner your strips that you tear are, bizarrely, the more you can kind of cut into it, because you're expected to have like smaller pieces on your landscape. So scale is everything. Okay, now we're going to go to the next two centre pieces, like so. Now we kind of need to make a decision of where we're going to stick these. So that's looking pretty good just there. So we're going to need some more double-sided tape. And I'm going to do a little bit at the top, but not much. The reason being, if we decide that we want to do like distressed edges, then we can do. Again, let's just get these backing papers off. And I'm going to peel one edge, so probably this one actually, because it's easier for me to line up against the edge of the card. Okay, up and over, hold it level, peel, stick. Okay, next one. So we're going to do the same again. Good news is you don't have to do this perfectly every time. You can either miss out bits that you don't like when you're cutting your landscapes out, or use your silhouette to hide it. So this top edge here. Okay, and we're going to line that up again. Try and make sure that you're covering that entire cut line. Let's peel that away. There we go. So we now have the start. Now, see where we've got this kind of cloud overlapping our mountains? You can leave that if you want, but I'm just going to very gently try and lift that up. The joy of not having nails, or nails at work anyway. There we go. Now what I will say is, when it comes to cutting that, just move it back down first so that you don't catch your blade. Okay, then we're going to go to the next layers and repeat. Now you can use your dies to do your shapes if you want to. Now this all depends on how much of an area you want to cover now. So bear that in mind when you're sticking this piece. There we go. Now we're onto our sky, and hopefully you can start to see where we're heading. Now if you want to just cut this into squares and rectangles, you can use your guillotine to do that. So you don't have to have a big fancy machine. If you have some basic shape dies, you can use those. I'm just going to pop a little bit of tape down because I forgot to do those bits. So again, decide how much of that grey you want showing. Sometimes it can look better if you put this first piece quite close together, so that it gives you kind of that visual reference of the clouds being closer together in the distance, which they are, and then they spread out as they get closer to you. Okay, so then this one we can offset a bit further back, and that completes our sky with our little birdies that are going to be flying through. Okay. Now, another idea is to do this onto a coloured card background. That will give you a bit of wiggle room for shape placement. So if you're struggling with getting that distance right, you can use that to kind of fix the issue. Okay, one last strip. And there we go. And now we have our landscape. So we could leave it like that if we wanted to, but what I'm actually going to do is cut into this. So let's start by trimming that down. Now the card that you trim away, you can keep to one side. You can use that for strengthening your sentiment. You could use it for another layout. So if you look, we have enough space here to do another couple of layouts as well. So if you want to do that, what I would suggest doing is, before we trim anything out, just do another one in situ, and then you can trim around the two and put that into your scanner cut, your Cricut, your Silhouette, or you can place your dies on it and cut that as normal. So by the magic of editing, I'm going to suddenly have this nice and trimmed out so that I can discuss about shapes. Okay, so we've got our piece now totally trimmed down. Now what I would say is, we're human, we don't get things perfectly level. So what I've done is I've literally trimmed it to the edges of the pages rather than necessarily being true square. The reason being that we can always sort that out after. We're giving ourselves as much room as possible to move things around. Okay, so where do we go from here? Well, you have a few options. So we've got our halfway change line here, and you could just leave it like that if you wanted to, but let's cut into it and actually make more than one card from this little strip. So what you could do is cut it so that you just have a tall thin piece like so. We could cut it so that you've got a square piece for a square card. It could be that we crop into it lengthways instead. So if I put this one here, we can start to play with the height of our piece. So if we want to get rid of the birds, we don't have to have the birds on all the pieces that we cut out. So we can start to play with that scale. Okay. So it really is up to you how you want to do that, and I can tell you that you are going to have a whale of a time playing with this kind of technique, because not only have you got the question of how big you want to scale your pieces, but also what shape. So you might want to cut it into a circle, and it'll be more like a little porthole effect, which would be really cool. especially if you then bring that into other elements in the card itself. So for instance, you might cut one of the sentiments out into the circle, and there is a setting to do that on your Scan and Cut for you automatically as well. So let's kind of have a think and a play, and when I come back we'll have shapes. So I've cut out my pieces, and like I said, you could do that with dies, you could do it with a machine, you could do it with guillotine, it doesn't really matter. But what you may find is sometimes particularly if you crop off some of the strip elements, is that you end up with something like this happening. And basically what it is we've trimmed off our double-sided tape by accident. But what I don't want you to do is panic and think, oh, I've ruined it, and throw it away. So we're just going to get a couple small pieces of double-sided tape, and I'm just going to pop that at the top. You can trim it after. A bit on there. I'm just going to pop another little bit just underneath that bottom edge. There we go. Let's get that backing off. So again, get my hooky tool. Now just be careful when you do stick these down, because often you may find that the only thing holding it on is those little bits of tape that we did on the peaks. So there we go. Same here. There we go. And we can trim that away, or just bend it round. Depends on the thickness of your card, but we should get away with that. Okay, so you can do that for all these edges if you want to just give it a bit more of a polished look. So I'm just going to do that for this grey bit here, maybe a little bit less than that. You can be sure the double-sided will fight back, and it is. Let's try that again, shall we? Oh, come on. Up you get. No, it's just going to fight back. I would rather stick to me and its own backing than stick to the card. How daft is that? Okay. So, there we go. And of course, if you've done this with a die, what you're going to find is any ruffles or anything that you put in will have flattened. So just gently bend the card back, and then we can lift those up. So if I just show that a bit closer, you're just going to bend that card back just so that we can lift up these cloudy areas here. Okay. Now if you decide you want to just flatten the edge there, let's just pop that in there. There we go. That's just going to hold that bit down, that little bit flatter. Still keep trying to do things with my nails, it's very bizarre. Not used to them. There we go. Fab nail artist though that we went to. There we go. So we've got our pieces, and now let's play with them in terms of the layout. So if I zoom back out a bit, there we go. So we've got our 4 pieces, And it might be that we just use this one for one of the sentiments. So I'm going to pop that to one side for a minute, because the ones that we really want to focus on are these. And I wanted to show you a little bit about playing with colour. So the green isn't a perfect match, but it just wanted to show you how different it can be by popping our pieces onto colour rather than white. So there's the green. If we pop the same piece onto some chocolate, like so, it will change colour. Okay, so it's not actually changing colour, but it's the way that your eyes perceive it. And even the camera, to a certain extent, you'll notice changes its settings, because it looks at it as a whole and go, well, actually you've changed the lighting. No, I haven't. I've just changed the card that's underneath it. Okay, so let's pop it on white so you can see it on white too, and see which look you prefer. Now, there is no correct answer for this one, so it really is up to you. I've pulled out a few different styles of card as well. So this one's a sculpted square, but I've got one here that's a gatefold. So see, you've got these two folds here. That means that they're actually going to fold inwards and join in the middle, and we can use our panel as a bit of a closure if we want to. So I'm just going to fold this fairly quickly, just so that you can see what that would look like. So we would then pop our little panel in here. Now, if you are going to do this, because we've only used that thick paper or thin card, you are going to want to reinforce it a little bit. But we could also go to one side. We don't have to have it in the centre of our card. Likewise, a piece like that would be quite good on a DL card. Okay, so don't be afraid to experiment. Okay, so I think I'm going to start off with one of the chocolate pieces, and then this is known as an adaptable, so it's roughly about 6 by 12, maybe a bit bigger actually. And the idea being that you can actually make it into a square card. You can turn it into a gatefold card. You could even do things like stepper cards with it and things like that, because you've got that extra length. Okay, it's a brilliant size to go for. Let me just double check the size, because I said 12 inch. I don't think it is 12 inch. I think you're looking at more like 16, because I think this edge here is 8. So let's see where we go. I'm thinking that would be quite nice to do something that crops like this. Does it matter that we're not using the full adaptable? No. With something like this plainer one, what I might do is use one of the cut parts to give us our pattern as such. If we were to just put a silhouette straight on this plain one, I think it'd be too plain and we'd lose a little bit of the effect. Okay, and then we have this one here as well. So this one I might take a bit more squarer, or I might use it on that white card. Now the cards are all going to fall over because, you know. Yeah, I think that one's going to go maybe just slightly overhanging this side actually. Would look quite good. And then I might mirror this kind of overhanging rectangle onto this left hand panel, so that when we open the card, that has a little overhang too. Okay, so I think I've more or less got in my head what I'm going to do. So let's get started. So for this first card, because I'm just going to go for a custom size to fit the design rather than worrying about base card size, I'm just going to stick this on, and then we can use our scoreboard and score that when we get that out shortly. And then it's just a case of trim it and job done. Now you could pop this onto white background if you wanted to have a bit more contrast, and retrim. So let me show you what I mean very quickly. If I get this piece here, then what that would do is just pop that bit out. Actually, I quite like that. There we go. Okay. So my bottom of my card blank is just here. It can be a bit tricky to see on the black. Let's first pop that there, and we might just be able to see it a bit better. There we go. So depending on where you want to put your piece, we can trim this overhang down here. I quite like it having that kind of white panel. It gives us somewhere to put a sentiment if you want to stamp one. Okay, now I'm not going to put tape all the way to the bottom. Okay, hook tool. Now I'm going to do this from the top actually. It's going to make life a little bit easier. I'll peel off that top piece entirely. But these two side pieces, I'm just going to turn back the top section. Now, another little trick. When you're doing something like this where you already have quite an unusual placement down here, try and keep that going through your design. So, what do I mean? The top distance here, you want to be different to this distance here. And obviously, this distance here is going to be bigger because of where we want to put our fold. So, let's get that level. Okay, and then we can peel that way, stick that down. Okay, we can then trim this edge up once we've done our folding. So let's set that to one side for a moment. Let's bring this one in. Now I'm going to leave this overhanging on this edge, so let's just give that a little bit of strength. Just going to stick it down onto another piece of card. Now this could be a good piece of card if you wanted to, it doesn't have to be white. Likewise, when you finish off your card, just pop another rectangle the other side so that you don't see the back of this piece. Now we'll just finish it off nicely. Okay, it's not quite in the right place, but it's close enough. So we can trim that down and then pop that onto our card. Okay, so here is our card. Let's see if I can get the camera back into focus. It's going to go blur. There we go. So there's our card, and we've done our little square here. It also pops over the edge like so. So what we'll do is when it comes to finishing this off, is just put a rectangle in here, rectangle in here, and then we're carrying that theme from the outside through to the inside of our card. Now if you wanted to do another landscape to put in there, you could do, just to give you a kind of idea. You don't have to have it as plain, but likewise you could put the landscape on this one down here too, and that would look pretty good too. So that almost looks like it was meant to go on there, doesn't it? So that you would have this kind of thing, so then you've got that follow through of the design. Okay. Now at the moment these cards are very much unfinished because they need that little bit of a focal point. So for this next card, I think I'm going to go for this one actually, and kind of go really minimalist. Yes. Pop on the tape. I should say that I am burnishing all my folds of my card blanks as well on the back, just to keep all these folds nice and crisp, because the designs are so simple. You want to try and keep your actual base nice and clean as well. Actually looks quite good upside down, that one. But no, we'll go this way. Okay. So I'm going to go into the centre. Now you could layer this onto an additional frame layer if you wanted to. That'll look really good. Or we can emboss around the outside. So use something like Clarity's embossing little templates that they do, where you can actually build up a frame around your design. Okay, so that's that one nearly done, and I did say I was going to do one with this piece as well. Now, I do have this card blank here. Now it actually needs a bit of a trim job. Yeah, that's the only problem with stuff, as it gets moved around, it gets damaged. As much as we try and, you know, minimise the damage. So let's just very quickly burnish the back of that fold. Okay. So this piece I'm going to pop. Probably let's go over here and do something a little bit different. So I'm actually a graphic designer by trade, so when we start to do things like this by playing with layout, it feels more like my comfort zone. Quite often I use card making as a way of pushing my boundaries, but sometimes it's just nice to go back to clean and simple. And let's get rid of those for a minute. I'm going to pop this. Bear in mind that we're going to be trimming this edge here, so I'm going to pop it a little bit further down than where I want that card to be. Okay, there we go. So we've got a little torn strip just there. That looks about as level as a dog's hind leg. It's probably that hairline that's like tricking the eye, but sometimes it's not gonna stick. Come on, just take your time. And we should be able to get it back off. Let's have a look. Better. As I said, I would be trimming around the edges of this just to tidy up the card anyway, so long as it is straight in relation to the fold, we should be okay. Okay, so let's bring our pads back in. Okay, so I want something that is going to be a nice sentiment to go on here. And the thing about Perfect Partners is that you have a couple of pads that have sentiments in that we can kind of choose from. The only one that doesn't is really the plain colour one, so we can set that to one side for a moment. So let's have a look, see what we've got. So even in our design pad, we have some little cut apart sentiments. Now that's not going to really do for that starter card, but we might use that for some of the others. So let's pop a sheet of that out and put that to one side. Okay, and then the other pad is like a cut apart pad. Now it has some similar sentiments to these, but slightly larger. So I'm going to take that one out. We also have these like little, almost like washi ribbons. So we can take those out in case we need those for anything. In terms of the actual topper designs themselves, there's nothing I'm going to use just at the moment, I don't think. I just need one kind of bird that I can fussy cut out. So this is a slightly different sentiment page. So if I bring in the original, which is very much focusing on the colours, this one's got a bit more of that charcoal colour. So this can help make our little silhouette figure pop, particularly on the landscapes that we put on the white card as opposed to the ones on the colour. So let's get that one out too. And for now that do, I think, because these birds here are going to be too big. Now we could use that one. So I'm thinking I could use this little bird here just on that one layout where it's a bit plain at the moment. Okay. Let's grab my trimmer. So let's start with this one. So we want something fairly big to kind of link up with our little border here. And the question is the colour. So decisions. We can go with the blue and pull the blue out the background, you see. Or we can go to the red and pull out the little red details. But I don't think there's quite enough red for that to work on that layout. So let's try, before I go too far actually, I'm just going to trim up this card. And the reason being, I'm pondering on whether to put my sentiments above or below that line. And if I put it above and I haven't trimmed, then it might not be in the right place. So I'm just going to drop a bit off this bottom edge as well. Happy with that. I'm going to cut apart this top line. Okay, here we have a blue one that says enjoy your special day. Really keeping it clean and simple. We have this kind of agey one, the Rokigo Dearest Friend, and we have our best wishes. So you just decide which one you like best and where you want to put it. Now I'm quite liking that position up top because we've got our little bird that's kind of looking up, so it kind of makes sense that it goes there, or we can put it there so it's more in its eye line. So let's just pop that so you can see the outside of the card a little bit better, and move these out of the way. There you go. So then it's just which colour. So we can go enjoy your special day, or dearest friend. Now the dearest friend I think is a bit too close in colour to our background, so if you wanted to use that you'd have to then matte and layer it to give it a frame to kind of raise it up, and I don't think that's going to really work with this layout, so I think that one I can discount. And then it's just whether to go colourful or kind of monotone. I think I'm going to go colourful. So then let's have a look at the different ways we can do this. We can put it over here. Now believe it or not, the card blank is square. It's just camera angle makes it look like it's not. So eeny meeny miny mo. I think I'm going to go there, and then we can balance it with the third element. Okay, so this one's got a little bit of a torn edge at the top, so I'm just going to trim that top edge a little. Just a little. It's the only trouble when you're working with paper pads, that top edge can be a bit... which is why when we did our pads we had that extra white border, so that it didn't have that, even if we had decided to go with a glued spine. But I much prefer the rings. Okay, pop that there. There we go. That's just pulling a little bit, I think. Let's see if I can just pop a little bit of tape under that. There we go. So now, because we've got this really kind of top heavy card, we need to balance it out. So your choices are as follows. We could do another strip coming in from this edge down here. We could do a strip going up from this edge here, or we could keep with this cluster and actually build something in here. Now, because we haven't got a landscape on this one as such, I'm going to use probably one of these little cut part sections down here. So rather than you sitting and watching me fussy cut, I'm going to fussy cut out and then come back. Okay, so I've done my fussy cutting. Now this was a square strip, but I wanted to paint one of the birds to go on one of the other cards. So I've just cut that off, and as luck would have it, I promise I have not retrimmed this card. It just happens to fit. So then we just need to figure out how we want to align this. But we want to have it so that it comes down from the outside edge. Now what I would say is make this purposeful. If you're going to match this up to this edge, make sure it matches perfectly. And then kind of let the rest fall. So that this line here is perfect. If not, we can go to the line of our sentiment here and follow that through. And that's going to help ground that element, even though it's kind of floating in space. So let's go for that. Okay. So I'm just going to peel that away. Probably wasn't the best way around of doing this, but I'm going to be cat-handed obviously today. Happens to us all. Some days you're with it, some days you're just not, and yeah, today is definitely a not. So this is actually one of two videos that I have in mind for the theme Great Outdoors. So there's going to be a scrapbook video hopefully at some point. So I'll follow this line down. If you're working on a magnetic board, you can use a ruler to help you. So you line up the ruler down this edge here, like so. Then as you try and stick this down, you can put this up to the ruler, and then once you've gotten that initial position down, remove the ruler away and you can go ta-da! There we go. So I'm going to let the rest of that kind of just flop, and then we can press it down. I actually really like that. Looks like it just needs like something, like a little square of colour, just to bring this square element in somewhere else. So it could be there and there. Be just one, I don't know. Let's try it. If ever you're not sure about something, give it a go first, and then you can change your mind after. As long as you don't stick it down too strongly. Oh. Let's get me yellow, I think. So I've got a little piece of yellow that I used for the gatefold card. I'm just going to trim this. Okay. I'm going to trim it once just to give me a straight edge. Then I'm going to move it over one grid mark on my trimmer. Then that should give me a bit of guidance when I come to actually do this bit. So again, I'm going to cut it once at a grid mark, move it along to the next grid mark, cut again, next grid mark, and cut again. So there's always one that pings off somewhere. There we go. So that's the long not square piece. So we set that to one side out of the way. And just to prove that these little details don't need to be very big. I'm just going to put one there and one there. And sometimes it's just little touches like that that make you go, actually, that balances and reads right. So you could stick that with glue, you could stick that with double-sided tape. Just for speed today, I'm just going to go with glue. Which is usually a mistake, because usually when I find this, I don't use glue that often. I probably have a bunged end. There we go. Tiny bit of glue. And pop it on. Just going to use my hooky tool just to help me. Dry wet glue is you have a bit of wiggle room, but the pain in wet glue is you have wiggle room. Maybe across just a little. There we go. Same again on this one. Just going. There we go. So you should have something that looks like that. Just press that down and one card finished. Now that's kind of the bonus card really, so let's have a look back at our other ones. Now with these I'm going to put a silhouette figure, so when I'm planning my layout I want to kind of balance that thought in my head. Now given that I've got a lovely even amount of space around this square, I don't want to put my sentiment really outside of this square. So I want something that's going to fit in here, that's going to allow me to have room for my silhouette to kind of stand. And then that's it. Keep it nice and simple on this one. So I'm going to go for a thinner sentiment. So you know we had those thinner strips. Let's use one of those. Given that it's Father's Day coming up, and that's kind of the inspiration behind my card, I should really do a Father's Day sentiment. See, we have a dad there, and we can do just for you actually. I think that might work. At the end of the day, if it doesn't, then we just don't stick it. So trim that one down, set that to one side. Trim that one down. just for you. If you do get any little stray bits of colour, just trim that off. Just otherwise it just looks like you've bought your card, and we don't want that, do we? No. Okay. Let's have a look at that. So, just for you. And then we'd have our figure over the top. So I think that would do even better than just having the dad there, to be honest. Because you've got that red background, it's going to pop more. The only thing I would say is it could have done with that text being darker rather than lighter. But yeah. Okay. Pop this into place. Then it's just all about the silhouettes, and when we come back to that one. There we go. Okay. Given that the theme is the great outdoors, I think I might go for every day is a new journey, because that's kind of great outdoorsy, isn't it? You're going to love the scrapbook layout I have planned. So it's going to kind of use a similar idea, but on a much bigger scale. Just check that edge. Every day is a new journey. It's funny because I always start out with like a main idea for what I want to do, and I never stick to it. Okay, so I'm quite liking that. It's a bit samey here though. Ponder that. So let's get just going to get a little scrap of card. Doesn't have to be very neatly finished. Just going to pop this up a little bit. So this is popping off to this end, so I'm going to kind of put two pieces of card at this one end just to kind of push it up a little bit. Now I could go to all the trouble of doing double-sided tape, but just need a little bit of glue. So now we can do double-sided onto our sentiment, and hopefully get this the right way up. Okay, so that needs to be double, that's going that way. double-sided tape on this bit and a bit on that bit. Every day is a new journey. Now I think with our silhouette on this one, I'm actually going to aim to put it just here, just to split that up a bit. Okay. So with this one, I'm thinking probably don't have a lot of room for actual silhouette, but it'd be quite nice to put some kind of sentiment in this white space. Let's have a look through these. We could go sending big hugs, but I'm going to ponder that one, I think. So, while I'm doing that, let's get our scoreboard, because that's kind of the next thing that we really need to do. Now, to make my life easier, I'm going to put it onto the inches side, and I'm going to work with my cardboard to this top right corner. Get my bow folder, and let's decide where we want our score line to go. I think I'm going to go there. Okay. I'm going to fold that score line inwards, so mounting it. Now I'm going to move that round so that my score line is entirely on the solid area, so that we don't get a bump in the front of our card when we do our burnishing. There we go. So you should have a nice crisp fold. We just need to then work out where we want to trim this off. So we're looking at about 1.5 inches trim, because you always want the front of your card to have a leading edge anyway. And we can set our scoreboard to one side for now. We're going to pop that in there and trim off the wall mark. There we go. I'm just going to trim a little bit off our card front as well in a minute. So now that we've done our score line, I'm just going to pop my card through folded, and then I can tidy up that bottom edge, like so. Now that bottom's nice and neat, so now we can do this side here. And tidy up at the top if needed. I do check from the back as well. It's looking pretty good actually. There we go. Okay. I'm going to cut out the dad. Just going past the sentiment so that I can get the scissors in a bit easier without damaging the other sentiments. Okay. So I'm just going to pop this underneath my piece here. So hopefully we can keep that centered. Okay. I'm just going to grab a pencil or pen. Pencil's better if you can find one. Yep, still finding stuff. I know I've put one somewhere safe, but okay. I'm going to mark this outside where I need to, just so. There we go. So if I know I trim everything there, then we should be pretty okay. Now, because I want to make sure that I keep this straight, there we go. Sometimes you find it points back, so I'll go down to the bottom. There we go. I do like that this particular guillotine has like the base lip at the bottom edge, because I just always find that things move when I don't want them to. Just make life a little easier. Okay. So now my dad should be the right size for my little area there. So we can take that down and job done. So it's just silhouettes. And just peel this away. And again, I'm going to go for an uneven amount of space, so we're keeping that theme throughout the layout. Nice, simple, clean card.